Greetings. Welcome to anybody who joins me. And hi, Alishia. Good to see you. And today, I'm just going to kind of jump into our week ahead. All right. We've seen some transitional changes through different things that are going on all over the world, right? And there's things that are disheartening and disturbing that we're experiencing. And in that, how are we showing up to the party is basically what we're asking ourselves, right? And it's important that we center ourselves and that we give ourselves time to process all of the information that we're receiving, which is an extended amount. It's not just a small amount of information that we're receiving. It's literally stuff being like poured onto us for knowing. Okay. And if you haven't cleared out your emotional body and done the inner work to be able to allow yourself to relax into who you are, right? Because that's what it's all about, relaxing into who you are, the choices that you've made up until this point, being okay with the permission, giving yourself permission for the choices, for any hardships that you have experienced, for not knowing things before now, allowing yourself to be who you were in every evolution of your becoming, right? It's important that we give ourselves these measures because that lets us know we're enough. If we're not clearly defining what enough is to ourselves, we'll never have it. So you must understand what enough is to you in order for other things to feel assured, trustworthy, okay. All right. And that's how you create safety is you learn what enough is for you so that you feel safe. You don't feel like you have to be outside of your physical experience in order to bring something more in order to feel that safety, to feel that protection, to feel you. All right. So today, what I thought I would do moving forward for this week, okay? I'm going to pull a rune. The rune's going to set the tone, all right? I don't know what kind of rune I'm going to pull first, but let's see. And I'm just reaching into my bag that has rose quartz runes, so that would be like a love reading. It has clay runes, so that's going to be general. And it has hematite, and that's going to be career or money orientation. So relationship, general, or money. And so today, general. All right. Wow. Okay. And even my widget came out. That's weird. It never comes out. Hi. Okay. Goodness. Okay. So the rune that we pulled is called constraint, and it is upright. So that means that we're in full bloom of constraint, right? And what that means is, let's find out. Okay, so it's going to be 105. Keep in mind that these are different ways to read energy, to read your surroundings, give you application, allow you to cognitively decide what kind of life you're living, okay? These are merely observational readings, okay? Constraint, necessity, and pain. So natis, that's the name of the rune, okay? The necessity of learning to deal with severe constraint is the lesson of natis. This rune represents the obstacles we create for ourselves as well as those we encounter in the world around us. Both can be equally difficult to handle, right? So we're noticing a grip of obstacles that are in our path, blockages, literal blockages. There's physical, mental, and emotional activity that is taking place in our lives that's preventing us from becoming who it is that we know ourselves to be truly from our heart and from our mind, okay? The role of natis is to identify our shadow, our dark or repressed side, places where growth has been stunted, resulting in weaknesses that are often projected onto others. And so this particular rune is about don't take this world personally. This rune is saying, work with the shadow, examine what is in your nature that attracts hardship or misfortune to your life. When at last you can look upon the ruin of constraint with a smile, you will recognize the troubles, denials, and setbacks of life as your teachers, guides, and allies. So I guess what the rune is saying is to make lemonade out of lemons, right? However, I'm also going to add, for me, for this interpretation, the necessity of growth is usually generated through painful circumstances. Pain is a great motivator. It motivates us to change. When we're spiritually bankrupt and we're not feeling all of what we believe ourselves to be able to feel as far as joy, appreciation, and the higher, faster vibrational offerings, because we won't allow ourselves to, because we're so joined in the entrainment of horror and debilitation, right? So the idea right now is to use what it is that you know to be true, you, okay? And find out, dig down into what prevents you from accepting who you are and how you operate, okay? And if you're standing behind somebody else's ideal, okay, somebody else's version of what the world needs, okay, then what's happening is that all of that is falling away and you're being left with yourself. You have to figure out what you believe and how you want to be in the world. And that's what's happening right now. So if you're clinging to something that has limitations, or it has hatred, or it has constraints in it, that is breaking down right now. The systems that support the hierarchy aspect of living are falling apart. Okay. And that means societies that are based in domination. Okay. So anything that's based in domination instead of support is falling away. And that's because society won't participate after a certain period of time, because eventually everyone will realize how it's working. Eventually. And however long it takes, change is imminent. It's happening anyway. All right. Noticing where you're at and deciding how you want to show up is going to be your best friend. It's going to be your best friend. So if you're showing up in a fear or a limitation because you've been taught that condition, then you're part of what is happening that you find horrific. Okay. Because you're not willing to change and learn who you really are, how you really add to the situation that we're in. Okay. Because we are in circumstances that we haven't experienced before, right? And that's every day. It's been that way since our birth. So it isn't different. It's that we have amplified it and created a focus toward it, which is legitimately how vibration changes everything. So when we focus on something and we look at it and we give it thought and we give it feeling, then we're adding frequency to it, and how we're feeling or thinking at that time is what we're adding to any concepts of energy that people are going into and feeling into or thinking into to decide what they think or feel. That's how it works. We're in consciousness. Sometimes it's our subconscious. Our subconscious is where our beliefs live. Because, I think that, like, if I don't cross the street while there's traffic, I'm not going to get hit. All right. That's a belief. And they're easy beliefs. They're not all these, it's an oversimplification of what your experience is. And a lot of times we think that it has to be very expanded and it must be this elevation, and it's being you. It's being you. That is your job. That's your purpose, to be you. How do you feel about the world? Of course, you've taken in other experiences and other information, but how do you feel? What do you think? That's important. That's very important. If you base it on another person's opinion, you've lost your empowerment. So how do you feel? Find out about that. And you can only do that by sitting with your emotions. Okay. So the need for restraint is unquestionable here. Drawing this rune indicates that blah 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 blah. Sorry. Drawing this rune indicates that there may well be holdups and reasons to reconsider your plans carefully. Clearly, there is work to be done on yourself. Empowerment when you're in the wrong. The only person that, okay, so wait, clearly there's work to be done on yourself. So I'll finish this and then I'll answer the question that was posted. So take it on with good humor and show perseverance. This is a time to pay off old debts, to restore, if not harmony, at least balance. So mend, restore, redress. When fishermen can't go to sea, they repair nets. Let the constraints of time serve you in righting your relationship to yourself. Be mindful that rectification must come before progress. And as always, consider the uses of adversity. So what we're noticing is that there is a lot of adversity around us, right? And possibly harmful adversity directly to us, right? Okay. So rather than retaliating, right? Retaliation or reaction, we need to respond in how we would like the future to be. So that's what this rune is suggesting. All right. So here is this question. Okay. Is empowerment okay when you're in the wrong? That's not empowerment. That's not empowerment, right? It's not empowerment. So there's a difference, right? So empowerment is a self-driven feeling, okay? And you don't feel wrong when you're in your empowerment. And you're the only one that can describe if you're wrong to yourself and create acceptance in it. There's a lot of people that would want to explain that there are certain morals, all right, that should be adhered to. And you're the only one. You're the only one that gets to decide what those are. You're the only one that gets to decide whether it's right or wrong. You're the only one. And it's according to your belief system. That's what it is. It's according to your belief system. My belief system is about being a good human, understanding that I'm a part of a bigger consensus of consciousness. And I'm merely like not even a drop in the bucket. Not even a drop in the bucket. So the best person that I can show up as is going to help the bucket that I'm in, right? That's what I believe. Your belief might be different. And that's okay. Response and reaction, how people sort those two words, right? Response means that you've given it contemplation and you're more in your intuitive nature. So you're in your feeling, belief, emotional energy, okay? And reaction is through understanding. You've understood something, you haven't embodied it, and now you're just going to create an action behind it. And that's reasoning, logic, cause and effect, and created understanding. Okay. That is masculine energy. The other is feminine energy. And that is the difference between the two in how they operate. Masculine energy is assertive. Feminine energy is attractive. So depending on what you are leaning into, right, is whether or not response or reaction is the nomenclature for the actionable state. Okay. So you can put them together, but that forces us to say that everything and always and only is the name of the game. And that isn't the truth. That is legitimately saying that our feelings have no seat at the table, and that's our divine intuition. So for me, response is more contemplative. I'm going to think about it before I give you my answer. I'm going to hold on to it and I'm going to see if, right, I'm going to perceive and feel. That's your divine feminine. Then I'm going to think cognitive, and then talk to myself about audience, okay, about the situation. That's my masculine. Then I'm going to decide using both fields of my energy, what my best response is. All right. And my best response is going to come from a place of combination. It's going to come from a place of understanding and meaning. So that's why they're different. Okay. And we're talking about how you flow energy. All right. So when you're flowing energy, you're in a flow state of vibration. The vibration is made up of multiple frequencies. Frequencies are developed through how you think, what you think, when you think, how often you think, and what you think about. And frequencies are also developed through feelings, which are generated through emotions, intuition, beliefs, and meanings. So when you have all of these energetic bodies, right, layering multiple frequencies, all right, then you create your experience from that, because you're the one who's deciphering it and telling yourself whether it's this or that. And it's really this and that. So when you're trying to separate it, right, and make it a limitation or a truth, it's because you're searching for truth, right? And you haven't decided what that truth is. And that's fine. Truth is a concept. For me, truth is a concept, right? Okay. Response is reaction through words, and reaction is responding through action or body language. If you'd like, that's your determination, and that's fine. That's what I'm saying. It's perfectly fine to have your very own individual understanding and meaning to what we're talking about. All right. This is a language that I have developed for myself so that I could better understand the movement of energy in my experience. And so that's why I lean into it that way. Okay. All right. So constraint is the name of the game in general for this next week. All right. Constraint meaning be present in your experience. When you're present in your experience, notice your thoughts, notice your feelings, and then pull them together and see if there's any inner work that needs to be done, because the inner work are all of the things that you say are limitations in front of you. Okay. That's the inner work, because actually you have no limitations at all. So the idea is to figure out how you want to operate. And a better way for me is to look to see like how I operate in community. How can I build that beautiful, nourishing communal group of people who are willing to support one another, love one another, accept one another. How do I build that? Because that's what I'm interested in. I'm not necessarily interested in other things. It isn't because I don't give it my time or my notice or my recognition. It's because I know how to maintain my vibrational understanding. All right. I'm not in ignorance. And I do see the travesty. That's a nice word for the BS that's going on in the nation right now. Treating humans in that way goes against how my heart feels. It goes against what my brain thinks to be a good human or an empowered human, right? And I think that forced reaction, right? Forced reaction doesn't give you time for response, all right? I think that a lot of that has to do with what your triggers are internally, and that causes your reactions. All right. So unless this is a clear vessel and you've sat with yourself, then empowerment is difficult. That's what I think. All right. That's in response to this right here. Okay. So we're starting out with the Hanged Man, which is very interesting, the Hanged Man. So that's how the deck opened. And this will be a reading for the week ahead. We'll call it for navigational purposes. So maybe the lookouts or what kind of energy we're experiencing. Let's interpret it through that lens. So what kind of energy is there to support us, and what can we lean into that will give us more ease, more appreciation, more gratitude, more community sense and connection, more concentric protection of children, right? Because this is the lens I'm going to use. That's how I feel. So that's how I'm going to read. Okay, here we go. Oh, nice. Okay. Of course. Ooh, all right. Well, let's see. And then one final card. All right. Okay. So when I read tarot, okay, it's a practice, and the deck talks to me, and I get, or maybe I talk to myself about the deck in my mind, right? Who's to say? Who's to say, right? It's my experience. I'm just sharing it with you. All right. So the first card that came up, all of these are very situational cards, by the way. None of them are life lessons. So that means that we're all in that waiting game, that constraint room that we saw. And then how we started with the hanged man, that's our spirituality. We're hanging in the balance of our spirituality basically right now. So that means that we're not necessarily swinging in the wind. We're contemplating what this actually means to us, what we feel into about it. Like, what are we willing to accept? What do we not want any longer? Different things like that, right? Okay. So the first card that we got is Eight of Wands, and that usually represents that we're aiming in the right direction. Something that you may notice that is different is that not all of us are in a reactive state right now. We're more in a responsive state. Okay. And what I mean by that is that we're not going off the deep end and going and just rushing into any kind of decisions. We're very much in contemplation. And it might feel to some that like a nurturing mom just got home and you were throwing a party and it was like, oh, hold on. Okay. And that's the energy that we have going on right now. Okay. The divine feminine is definitely being afforded a seat at the table, and that's your feelings and emotions. So for years, you've been told that they don't matter. For years, you've been told that they're not facts, and your thoughts are produced exactly the same way as your emotions. You make them up. So either none of it is right or all of it is right. Okay. All right. So we're aiming in the right direction. The actions that we're taking, and we're in that grown-up version of it. So it's what comes around goes around. So think about your neighbor. Think about how you can be good to the other neighbor. Think in ways that doesn't generate you needing something back, right? And then being decisive. So our emotions right now, we're in this, we're not sure what our homes are going to be. We don't know what like our living conditions, how we're going to earn money, what the different things are. Lean into how you feel about things. Trust your intuition. Trust what you feel about things, because that right there is the name of the game right now. So the Two of Pentacles, all right, the Two of Pentacles or coins is all about rough seas and decision making. Rough seas and decision making, but being on dry land and figuring out what it is that you would like to bring to the table or decide about. So this right here is not necessarily a muddy card as much as it is a significantly decisive card. So what are you deciding is important to you? What are you deciding materially is what you need to keep, and what can you let go situationally, right? Now we're going to add to the water of that card. We have another 8. All right. So what comes around goes around. And on the 17th, we had the new moon in Aquarius. Okay, so the new moon in Aquarius. Now, here's what this means from a metaphysical or a spiritual philosophy practice. If somebody is into astrology, okay, so if somebody's into astrology, they're going to look at the planets. They call them transits, and that means the planets move in the sky. They transit across the constellations. Those are the houses. So if you pay attention to like your horoscope and you're a Pisces, like Pisces season right now, then the planets that go across your planet, the planets that go across your constellation will affect you deeply, okay? Because of the magnetics. That's why, because we're all magnetic balls spinning in the middle of nowhere. That's why. And we're in a gravitational pull. And we belong to this sun's gravitation. And then we have our own generation of gravitation. Then there's moons. Look at all these celestial bodies just floating around in elliptical orbit. All right. So if you're into astrology, when you look at the transits, what they do is they tell you what the archetypal energy is. They tell you how it behaves, and they say this is how it applies, and these are the other things that could take place. But that's in an astrological belief, okay? So since we had that new moon, the new moon is all about darkness and the beginning. Darkness and the beginning. So it's like ground zero. However, this particular new moon happened and crossed the sun's path in an annular eclipse. So in Antarctica, they were able to see the ring of fire. And that means that there was still illumination in the darkness. That's how you would translate it, okay? So when you go into the darkness, it's like a blank canvas that you get to create from. And it's the end of letting go of whatever you had filled yourself up with the 2 weeks prior that brought you to the full moon. So the practice is you are in a beginning and then you are in an ending, and it is very cyclic. So what comes around goes around. About every 2 weeks, you let go, and then every 2 weeks you become, and that's what the moon premise is. All right. So right now, we went from Earth. This is an Earth card. Okay, this is Earth, but you could see there's water. So if Earth and water get together with no decision, you know it's going to be murky. You know it's going to be murky, right? And now this is if you come into a place where there are personalities that are difficult for you to manage and still be yourself, right? To where you feel they need to. Anytime that happens, any kind of conversation that you're having with yourself about how somebody needs to in order for you to feel, then that is BS. You're lying to yourself. You are lying to yourself. Okay. What you're doing is you're not taking accountability or agency and being a sovereign human and saying, wow, why do I feel that way? Why is my perception like this? What is another perception that I could create? What's another concept? What's another application? All right. And that's how expansion happens. That's how acceptance happens. Okay. All right. So when you feel constrained, remember the rune, when you feel tied down to an only, a never, or an always, it's time to investigate why you have that. It isn't going to be changed by something external. All right. You may go into a different experience and think that that is change, but you're still vibing the same way. So the same outcomes are going to present themselves because you're determined to think and feel a certain way. So it doesn't really matter what the external is. It matters how internally you feel. All right. And this particular card is the 8 of Cups, which is all about emotion. All right. You can see that there is the full moon and the new moon in essence. And this individual is actively walking away from the emotions. When you see something like this, you might have a tendency to think that it's okay to walk away from your emotions. This is actually a card that tells you it's time to build your strength internally. All right. None of the cups are turned over. All right. So none of them are spilled. So they all have something to offer, but you're full. These are full emotions, all the full emotions. And now you have to retreat in order to empty them so that you can have good understanding for yourself. Okay. Situationally. Okay. Now, Now we've kind of saw these things, right? We've seen that there's 2 8s and there's a 2. There's also another 2, a last 2, but this is the action that we might want to take. Okay. So because we're having difficulty making a decision because the information that we have is skewed and it's playing with our emotional body. Since it's playing with our emotional body, we really have to clear that out. We have to clear it out and find out why we feel the way that we do, decide whether or not our beliefs that are attached to that are necessary any further. And the ones that aren't, bless them and thank them because they brought you to this place. You brought you to this place. You keep showing up. So let yourself understand that you keep showing up, and you show up because your heart is in it, because your mind is in it, because your body is a part of it. Those are the 3 bodies that we use 100% of the time. When it's cohesive, it makes it easier for us to create understanding, live by our intuition, take inspired action that supports community, right? That's when we're clear and effective. When we're not clear and effective, we're usually in a very constrained space to where we think that it's external that's causing our internal. And that's just because we're vibing different than what the external is. And we're not willing to investigate who we are. Okay. And that's fear. That's fear. So the last card is a 2 of Wands. So that again is another action orientation. So it's this contemplation of what's next, right? Contemplation of what's next. You can see the individual has like the world in their hand. These represent abundance and ease, still facing water, kind of a gray area. So still not exactly determined or decided how to move forward, and has a bit of a blockage right here, or is in an elevated position that can actually see and perceive more than what was once experienced. So watch. You have the 8 of Wands. We're naturally aiming in the right direction. Again, over water, right? So we're going over our emotions in action. This is a masculine energy, but we're aiming in the right direction. That means the actions that we're taking are good. We are a bit indecisive as to how things are going to come about, but we are pulling together. All right. And the idea is, the advice is that we internally clear out our emotional baggage so that we can better understand ourselves and create meanings that live within us the way that we would like. In that means that we have to take action toward a decision in the way that we're looking at things. And that action could be applied the community. All right. All situational. That will be the week ahead. So right now it's 12:03. What I want to do is I want to do like a mini meditation, if you will. I like to end because I want to do the peace thing at 12, and I know I'm a couple minutes ahead right now or beyond. So if you would like to do this with me, go ahead and if as long as you're not driving or operating any heavy equipment, okay? So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to take a nice deep breath in through your nose and fill your entire body. And then release it through your mouth. We'll do 3 of these cleansing breaths. So another one. And release. Take another deep breath in. And release. Take a deep breath into the top of your head. Release, relax, 1. Take a deep breath into your forehead. Release, relax, 2. Take a deep breath into your cheeks. Release, relax, 3. Take a deep breath into your throat and neck. Release, relax, 4. Take a deep breath into your feet. Release, relax, 5. Take a deep breath into your legs. Release, relax, 6. Take a deep breath into your hips. All that stored emotion, deep breath. Release, relax, 7. Take a deep breath into all of your back. Release, relax, 8. Take a deep breath into all of your front. Release, relax, 9. Take a deep breath into your hands, arms, and shoulders. Release, relax, 10. Continue breathing. This is a Qigong practice. So when I do this, I'm practicing the art of Qigong, which is Qi energy, our connection to Earth, and how we perceive the energy in our space and how it's shared in its consciousness and subconsciousness. Through effort or no effort, all of it is as all of it is. Can't be destroyed or created. We're a part of it. So in this connection, right, in this practice, we create an entrainment. The entrainment is as the strongest vibration wills it and perceives it, which is divine masculine and feminine energy. And because I can will things in an energetic space, I am willing to share the vibration that I am manipulating into love, harmony, peace, appreciation, gratitude, ease, kindness, forgiveness, acceptance, enough. Ooh. Yeah. And then we all come into who we really are. We're all of that. And we can choose it. So for me, that's what empowerment is knowing that I have that choice, that I can choose to be a good human, that I can choose to vibe in beautiful ways with others, that I can choose to align that vibration with humanity and share it. And that's what this is all about for me. So there's a question, what are these card deck called? It depends. Sometimes they're oracle decks and sometimes they're tarot decks. The deck that I was using earlier is a Rider-Waite tarot deck. This deck for the final pull, the final card, is a fairy deck, and it's an oracle deck. And so here's our card from there. Perfect timing. Perfect timing. This is the right time for you to move forward. Woo! And that will be our parting words for today. I wish you all many blessings. Thank you, thank you, thank you for joining me. And I'll see you next Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday or Saturday or here at Body Studios. Thank you very much for joining, and I hope that you guys have a fabulous day.